camo that was on battleships in World War II. It used
Definitely.
yeah. So it used some black and white triangular and angular patterns to disrupt the pattern of a battleship, so that the idea was so that submarines could not tell which way a ship was going when they were going to fire a torpedo. And it ended up also being used in some bathing suits back then to try to slim down women's figures. And so I kind of set Brendan down that path, which wasn't the greatest path to send him down, but it kind of gave him an initial idea of my thinking. And my thinking was silhouette disruption. And that's kind of where we started. So let me just stop there for a second for your questions about kind of that initial inspiration.
So for me, in your research, what was it that intrigued you to come with that pattern? So you spent all the time, 5 months, searching the research. What was it that made you come up with this pattern that you have now?
So a couple things, we had heard differently about deer vision is, I grew up hearing, didn't grow up, but later on we started hearing they see black and white, or they see most colors. And, there were different things out there about what people thought deer vision was about. And then we learned they were red-green colorblind, which my dad is also red-green colorblind. So it was fascinating learning how my dad sees the world, and deer see the world the way my dad would. So reds, any shades of red, orange, pink look like shades of gray, which is why we can wear fluorescent orange into a deer that looks like a shade of gray. And then greens look like different shades of yellow. So greens are not as much of a bright green as they look like more dark and dull yellows. So that I kind of thought, okay, they're red-green colorblind. But then the really shocking piece of information that we learned was that their vision, the acuity of their vision is around 2100. And when we're talking about deer, we're not just talking about whitetail deer. We're talking about deer species, moose, elk, mule deer. They all have the same visual patterns of red-green colorblind at 2100. And when we learned they had 2100 vision, that was a big shocker for me. I always assumed that deer had better vision than I did. I'm thinking they're more like a hawk than they are a person in terms of how they would see detail, but they don't. And in reading the papers, what happened is, in order for deer to have outstanding night vision, they sacrifice some of the detail in day vision with the way the rods and cones work. So one wildlife biologist described it as a deer does not need to count the hairs on a mountain lion to know it's a mountain lion. They recognize that shape. They recognize that silhouette. So that kind of led me to thinking, okay, if deer have 2100 vision, when they see a lot of the other patterns, and we can just walk down through the patterns, but the real to nature patterns and many of the others that are out there, all the detail in that patterns, which looks lovely when we're wearing it, blends together into kind of that dark blob effect to a deer. So I described it to some people at the NRA Great American Outdoor Show as, when a deer sees you in these other patterns, they've seen you 100 times. And what I meant by that is, if they see you out in the yard, if they're in the woods, they see you in the yard. They see you walking on a hiking trail. They see you at the edge of a field and a farm, and you're not in camo, but they see you. You're wearing, a dark jacket, a long sleeve shirt, pants. They recognize that silhouette. And when they see that silhouette of you wearing other types of camo, it's what we've all experienced of getting picked off in the tree. You could be standing there and the wind is in your favor. You're not moving, and that doe turns her head and just looks straight up and stares right at you. That pisses me off when that would happen. And it pissed me off because I couldn't understand why. I'm like, what's going on? The wind is in my favor. I'm wearing what everybody tells me I should be wearing. I'd even, tie some branches onto my ladder stand to try to break up a little bit more, but I get picked out, sometimes at a fairly far off distance. Well, then it started to begin to make sense. The patterns we were wearing are too detailed. They're too tight. And also with the red-green color blindness, how some of the colors that were being used in some of the patterns really don't help in breaking up the silhouette. So as Brendan started coming up with different designs, I kept saying, more contrast, larger scale. And it took 5 years for him to come up with the pattern. Now, that's 5 chronological years. That wasn't 5 full years of effort. The benefit of a father and son relationship in starting a company is, hey, it's great. You get to work within your family. But the bad part of it is, I would get on him about it and get on him about the pattern and what he's doing. And I'd reject some of what he was doing. And there were times where he got so pissed off at me, I don't even think he looked at it for 9 months at a time. So it took 5 years for him to come up with this pattern. But a lot of that was frustration in the creative process. You hear of artists getting frustrated. Actually, Brennan's background, his degree was in digital media and art. So even in times where I was really frustrated with lack of progress, there's no way I was going to go to anybody else to try to, work on some possible designs. Brendan understood the vision. He understood what we wanted to accomplish. And at the end of 5 years, he came up with something that was really different. There's no doubt about it.
Well, we actually have your camo pattern, Jasper, while you're asking. Chris, you want to pull up that camo pattern with a picture you send us?
That's really interesting to me. The one thing that I was hoping you could just explain for us and for people who are listening is the difference between what we perceive like 20/20 vision and 20/100 vision. Because I think that although we all know 20/20 vision is what you're hoping you get on your little test when you take it at the doctor's office, I'm not sure that correlates well to knowing exactly what you mean.
Yeah. So, we know we're supposed to have 20/20. So basically, let's say you do have 20/20 vision. And believe it or not, even though I wear these glasses, I do have 20/20 vision, except for reading close up. So what we can see, so the difference between like 2100 and 20/20 is what we could see clearly at 100 feet. A deer would have to be 20 feet away to see that same level of detail. So that's kind of, 20/20 and 20/20 and 2100. So if you have 20/40 vision, that means what I can see at 40 yards of detail, you'd have to be 20 yards away, for example. So the farther away you are, the more you have that blur. And for anybody that wears glasses, when you take your glasses off, if you're anything, over 20/40, 20/50 or more, you see how things start to blur together, and you don't necessarily see the leaves in the tree. You see green blurs in the tree. That picture you have up right now, that shows what the pattern looks like to a deer. And that picture it's been converted to red-green colorblind, but to be honest, it really doesn't make a difference because there's no reds or greens in there. So you kind of see how it breaks up that silhouette. And the way most hunters describe it is they feel like it's the deer looking straight through them. Now there's some branches in front of him, but even when hunters are out in the open, they feel that pretty much the deer are looking straight through them. This is a great example of a saddle hunter hanging off the side. And if you zoom back out there a little bit on that picture, when you're looking at that, it's really kind of hard to pick out.
That's amazing.
Where's he's hanging completely off the side of that tree. But if we go back to the original picture of the pattern, so Brendan was really smart. When he finally was in the end design stages of this pattern, he didn't show me what he was doing. I didn't see it. I didn't see the last parts of. I didn't know he shifted to this particular design. And when he invited myself and my partner at the time over to the house to see it, he pulls up a PowerPoint presentation, and he starts going through and showing a hunter. What he did is he digitally overlaid the design of the camo onto a hunter, and then he placed them in different wilderness scenes, and wooded scenes, grass scenes in the field, rocky areas, and then he converted them to red-green colorblind. And he went through the presentation, and I looked at the hunter. I'm like, wow. I mean, when I'm looking at some of this, I can't really outline the shape of the leg. Now you can in this one because we're close up and we're looking in real vision. But he went through the entire presentation of showing it the way a deer would see it. And actually, it was really funny. The very last slide he had was, "It even works on Mars." And he took a picture of a Mars landscape with some rocks and pasted a sitting hunter in there. And by God, it would actually work on Mars too if we end up hunting Mars up there. But But then at the end of the presentation, he asked me a question. And he said, how many hunters did you see on each picture? I'm like, damn, I saw one. So he went back to the beginning and then showed that each one had 2 additional hunters in it at varying distances that I never even picked up on. But the reason he did that is because when you first look at this pattern, and the most common response I get when I'm at the NRA Great American Outdoor Show, I just went to the Iowa Deer Classic and exhibited there for the first time, is one of 2 things happen. People either come up and they just start looking at it and staring at it, and they'll look at the pattern, and then they'll look up at the monitor, seeing the pictures of what it looks like in deer vision, or they'll just look at me and literally say out loud, WTF, the full words, is that. And and it's not surprising that people have that reaction, because everything we've learned about camo and our experience of what we think camo should look like, it should blend into our surroundings. And instead, we took the approach of completely disrupting the silhouette and making it hard for a deer to identify that you're a solid object, that you're one person as part of that, what they're looking at. And the stories that have come back from hunters, I mean, it's crazy, the stories that hunters have willingly told me about their experiences with deer. One of my field representatives, JP Ashworth in Alabama, he was going out archery hunting, and he saw a doe with 2 fawns. So he said, I'm not going to shoot that doe. The fawns are still spotted late in the year for Alabama. So he's like, well, let's test out the camo. And he had been walking on a logging trail. He said he had a little bit of greenbriers, just a little bit of greenbriers, kind of at waist level and partially covering one leg. So he's like, let's see what happens. And she was 15 yards away, and he purposely made a noise. And when he made that noise, she turned and looked his direction, and she's looking around at 15 yards away and couldn't pick him out. And he said, I'm in the open pretty much, and there's nothing but a lane behind me. He goes, and she went back down feeding. He said, I did this 5 or 6 times. He said, and finally curiosity got the best of her, and she came walking straight towards him, and she got less than 10 feet away. And then she just kind of looked and looked and looked, and then pranced back, didn't run, didn't throw her tail up, didn't snort, but then she just kind of pranced back to her fawns, and they walked off. So it appears that deer are having a hard time picking out the silhouette. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, before this past season, this past October, September, October was our first archery deer season with the camo. I mean, we just released in November 2021. Before this past deer season, it was all theoretical. We were modeling things out in Adobe Photoshop. We modeled it out looking at Red Green Colorblind. We thought it was going to work. It looked like it was going to work. We were taking pictures of the couple sample suits we had. But until we got through this past season, honestly, we didn't know for sure. But as you're looking at these pictures here that are kind of sliding through and seeing like in all different types of settings, even close up, that's Calvin Boland there, and that's David Ritter. These are Michigan guys that just went out and took some pictures for me. That it gets really hard to pick out the silhouette of the hunter. So we've been really pleased with the results that everyone has had hunting, not just deer, but bear, turkey, pigs, antelope, elk. So far, all those have been taken with the camo thus far.
So I have to ask, because this was a question I immediately when I seen your WTF camo. So I know what it means as everybody else, whitetail, forensics, but yeah. When you did WTF, was there any thought process besides what WTF stands for?
Yeah, so
Wild Turkey Federation, right?
Yeah. So when I was thinking about doing this and saying, all right, we're going to do this in 2013, and we're going to somehow make this work over time, I was like, well, what do I call the company? Because I wanted to form the LLC, start with, figuring things out, get a website reserved. And I'm thinking, well, what are we trying to do? Well, we're certainly not trying to look like a tree. We're not trying to look like brush. There's a lot of other great camo names out there. So what are we really trying to do with the camo? We're trying to kill deer and other animals. We're trying to kill big game. sorry, we're trying to kill a big game. What are we talking about? We're using science. Well, I'm like, I went through a lot of thinking. I'm like, well, forensic science. Forensic science is all about, examining how things died and everything else. And I'm like, forensic science. I'm like, all right, we're trying to kill deer. And whitetail forensics. I'm like, oh my God, whitetail forensics. Oh my God, WTF. Oh my God, WTF Camo. And right then and there, I started reserving the website name. I just started trademarking it and thinking, you pass or follow trucks or pass trucks all the time that have website names on them, on the side of the doors or in the rear windows. And you just don't remember ever what those website names are. My Suburban has the vinyl coverings on the windows and the sides and back. And if you drive by WTF Camo, not too hard to remember. So name and brand recognition is really important. And also, of course, the other part of WTF Camo is people look at it, and when they come up to the booth, they'll say, what the F Camo? And I'm like, well, actually, it's Whitetail Forensics, but let me explain why I named it that. And then I go through the hook of why we designed it and how we used Deer Vision to design it. My buddy Barry Noss helped out at both the NRA Great American Outdoor Show, and he rode out to Iowa with me. He's a great friend. He worked the night shift. He worked 12 hours, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. I picked him up at 7 a.m., and we drove 18 hours straight out to Des Moines, Iowa for the Iowa Deer Classic. So he helped me out during that show. But he had a good line out there. When people come up and say, what the F Camo? He'd say, well, that's what the deer say when the arrow goes through them and then have no idea where the hell it came from. So he said, that's what you get with WTF Camo. But there was certainly a double benefit. One, it's memorable. Two, it really does represent kind of what we're doing with whitetail forensics. And three, when you see it on my truck, when you see it somewhere, if you see it passing on a Facebook ad, you're more than likely to remember it, and it's not that hard to remember how to spell either. Let me just stop for one moment, because you're on my page about kind of some of what we're involved in, and there's a few things I want to mention about our company while we're here. If we just step away from the camo for one moment,
yep,
is we're also really committed to the community, especially veterans and youth causes. This is actually a band, and really interesting backstory. The Resilient Band. They're all they're battle wounded veterans, except for the gentleman there that actually does look like a rock star with the long hair and the light blue shirt. He was actually a musician therapist at Walter Reed Medical Center, and he met all these other three gentlemen while they were recovering at Walter Reed, and he was using music to help them heal. And some of them were in for a real long time. Tim on the far right, I believe he was in for 6 years at Walter Reed. He lost both his legs to an IED, and his right arm has had many surgeries. And he actually played guitar until he was injured and could not. The gentleman at the far left, he plays drums. And if you ever want to see something amazing, watch a guy without his legs and without a right arm play drums, and it's unbelievable what he's able to do. And then Jake in the back plays bass, and he lost a leg. But these guys have a remarkable story, and they were learning music. And actually, Roger Waters from Pink Floyd came into Walter Reed, met them, talked to them, and they invited Roger Waters to come back. And he said he'd only come back if these guys would form a band. And he pushed them into forming a band, and then he actually took them on tour with him out on the road. And they do cover songs, and they also write some of their own music. And on our page, you can actually link to them. They actually just got signed on by a record label that focuses on veterans and tries to hire veteran acts. And if we scroll back up, River House PA, that's an organization I'm on the board and volunteer for. And that's based out of the Hamburg area of Pennsylvania. We mostly work with veterans, a lot that came through the Lebanon VA Medical Center that struggle with PTSD and trauma-related issues as a result of their service. and we focus on trying to get them into the outdoors. We've had a little bit of a lax in activities over the last year and a half because our founder, Cindy Ross, her husband, Todd Gladfelder, suffered a partial paralysis when he fell off of his blacksmith roof. So we've been focusing a lot on his recovery, but an amazing story there. One of our veterans who really struggled, he was one of our first veterans involved in the group almost 8 years ago, had a lot of struggles, a lot of challenges, a lot of crises. He's now a major part of Todd's recovery and is at their house anywhere from 1 to 3 days a week, helping Todd do weight work, walk, push him, and a remarkable story there. So we're really proud of the work we do in working with veterans and getting them outdoors. And I'm always the cook. So they always show up and they want to know, Tim, what did you make? And it's usually stuff like a seafood boil or a good old fashioned New Orleans gumbo and fried chicken and homemade fries. And then we'll sometimes have them churn ice cream. So they always get fed pretty well. But that's an organization that we reach out to veterans in the southeastern Pennsylvania area. And if we scroll up, Hunt for Hope, that they're based in Ohio, and that was founded by a young man who has a disease that affects his nerves and moves inwards and a lot of physical challenges. And he wanted to help other youth that suffer disabilities get out and hunt. So that was actually a youth-founded organization. I got to fix that picture. It's not coming up right on my link, but we'll get that straightened out. And then up at the top, right there, the One Wish Foundation. That's another organization based out of the Reading area here in Pennsylvania. And actually, I'm using their mug right now that I'm drinking out of. And One Wish provides that kind of one wish to youth with life-altering conditions. And they're an amazing organization. They have an event each year in May in Hamburg, Pennsylvania, to raise money to provide outings for these young folks. And they do amazing work. And the dream, Jared Renninger, who's the founder, his dream is to one day have a One Wish Ranch. And they take the leftover money from these fundraisers they do and put it, and they're raising money to hopefully someday be able to buy a couple hundred acres and have cabins that'll be kind of a respite and a getaway for families of these youth. And it's such a popular event that they sold out of tickets within a half an hour for this May 13th event, which is going to be their 10-year anniversary. But it's a remarkable organization. And from a standpoint of WhiteTail Forensics, we actually, when it's an organization like that, and I've had multiple organizations come to me, the Fallen Outdoors, and I donate a camo suit for the Fallen Outdoors for a couple different chapters. And the Fallen Outdoors provides outdoor hunting and fishing experiences and outdoor experiences for veterans. So when it's some organizations like that, I ask them to reach out, and I try something. I can't support them all, but we focus mostly on organizations where they're providing outdoor experiences to youth and also to veterans. So I thank you for going to that page. I appreciate that, because it's a part of our commitment is to give back as well. Even though we're just starting out, we want to try to give back as much as we can. So thanks for the little diversion there. We can get back to the camo.
There's always a blessing. We talk about this all the time on here. There's always a blessing from doing something great. So I commend you guys for making sure you're doing a wonderful thing to help the young. I always call them the young. I can't call them the youth. I don't know. I always call them the young because there's so many different age levels up through there that even at 16 and 17, they're no longer considered youth, but they're still young.
Yep.
And, they are reaching out for that opportunity. And I think it's tremendous what you're doing there. So Chris is really good, man. Chris will check all your stuff. Like, I try not to stay on top of it all because I want to ask questions and learn as I go.
Yeah.
Where Chris is always flipping through your stuff a week in advance,
I appreciate that. And even here, pro staff, these are my very first pro staff, and I'm going to update this page. I'm working on a map. We actually have right now about 85 brand ambassadors and field representatives. And the field representatives are those groups that have a Facebook page, a YouTube channel, and a lot of them are out filming hunts. And then the brand ambassadors are individuals. Sometimes I have a couple married couples. So I have a lot of states covered on the eastern half of the country already. And I'm kind of maxed out right now on my field staff. And I also have some youth field staff as well. So you're looking at the school permission form. You mentioned that earlier. We like to have fun as well. So of course, when we had clothing that had WTF branding all over it, I had to give the youth something to try to salvage turning their hoodies inside or out. So I created a WTF Camo attire school permission form. So if somebody's going to school and they get flagged, it's a letter written from me explaining what it means. And and it's a nicely written letter, but it also encourages that they should, because WTF Camo is designed based upon the science of deer vision, and that we would ask them to encourage the youth involvement and interest in science around camo and WTF Camo. But I've had some youth have it be somewhat successful, and like I said, I had one recently that the brother in high school can wear his WTF Camo gear. The brother in middle school, the principal there is not quite as understanding, but hey, I applaud him. He's one of my youth field reps, so he wears it outside of school, and he's going to work on trying to get that back in school.
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
You know me, I've been going through the pictures and going through all this stuff. Do you find that I've noticed that some of them have the larger angles and things up top, and some of them have the angles at a different spot? Do you find that the positioning of these angles and the positioning of where they are has a big impact, or
no?
No,
it does not. I mean, the pattern, it's like a 22¼ inch by 22¼ inch repeating pattern. So it actually just goes in the clothing as it rolls out in the material. So that does not seem to have any effect. And the one thing I mentioned that hunters talk about the fact that it's as if the deer is looking straight through them. What I've had a lot of hunters come to me is talking about the difference in their experiences this year versus any other year. And I have one of the guys, he's a Harrisburg police officer, and he was actually working the booth at the NRA Great American Outdoor Show. And he happens to be a friend of one of my neighbors who came up in Boy Scouts with my youngest son. So Vince, my neighbor, bought this Harrisburg police officer, Tim, a camo suit for a wedding present. Interestingly, it was the only wedding present, so the bride was out of luck, but Tim got himself a nice WTF Camo suit. He had actually been following our camo, and he talked to Vince like, yeah, I've been following this camo online, WTF Camo. And Vince is like, well, he's my neighbor. He's like, what do you mean? You know that guy? He's like, yeah, he's my neighbor. So Vince ends up getting him a camo suit for the wedding. And by the way, he for the baby shower, not a bachelor gift, for the baby shower, he got him a 12 gauge shotgun. So Tim basically described Vince as the best effing friend ever. So shotgun for a baby shower and a camo suit for a wedding present. You got to love that. But Tim's a big guy. And so what he was telling me was, he said, man, he came up to the booth in Harrisburg. He goes, I honestly thought it was a fluke. He goes, I'm used to getting picked off. He goes, I'm a big guy. He goes, and I'm used to getting picked off in the stand. He said, and these does were coming in and they just weren't seeing me. They were looking up and around. He says, I'm like, is it just coincidence? Like, what's going on? Why aren't they picking me off? So he's like, I thought I'd check it out. So he goes, some came in and he went, meh. He goes, the doe looks straight up towards him, looks around, and goes on. He goes, this is unbelievable. He goes, I just couldn't believe it. He goes, I thought it was a fluke. I thought it was just coincidence that I just wasn't getting picked off. He goes, but nope, they're looking up and around and they're not picking me out. And I mean, this is kind of a word of mouth. I mean, I'm doing Facebook ads and I'm doing everything else. And I really appreciate you having me on, because this has kind of been growing by word of mouth, where people are wearing it. That's a great picture. There's a guy standing in the open on a ladder that as you start to look out, it's really hard to kind of pick out his edges and silhouette there. Because, I've had a couple, archery shops that have approached me and one that carried just a handful of suits last year just to kind of get it in his shop. And I said, you're going to need something to go with it. Like I actually sent him a video to go with it that has some of these slides in right here you're seeing. And the reason is because one of the most amazing things about our camo is how well it works in all scenarios, whether people are on the ground, in a saddle, in a stand, it really doesn't matter. They're just not getting seen by the deer, even at close range. And even when they're standing in the open, the most challenging thing about the camo is it is so different that if it's just on a rack in a store and guys walk by it, I mean, I would venture to say if any of you just walked by it without seeing any of these pictures, you would just continue walking right by and not even take a second look at it because it's not like anything else that's out there. And
Tim, I don't want to interrupt you, but I have to agree. When I first seen this,
yeah.
The first thing I said was, well, okay, so WTF. I mentally was like, what is that?
Exactly.
And I kind of put two and two together, like, boy, that slogan's really catchy. And then I also was like, man, I am intrigued, and just kept, like I said, I kept watching your stuff. I kept flipping through, and the more I seen it, the more I was like, man, this is really neat. And
go ahead, I'm sorry.
I get it. No, I get it.
Yeah, what happened when I first released it and we first started putting up the website, I had people approach me and they're like, thank you. They're like, we have been waiting and waiting and waiting, like for somebody to do something different and in the industry for camo, because they said, we're getting sick and tired of getting picked off. And I had Keith Coleman, he has the Coffee with Coleman podcast out in Missouri. He told me early on, he said, I am so excited. He goes, there is a stand that I have to abandon every year that gets hot, but it gets hot after the leaves are off the tree. He goes, and when I'm up there with no leaves in the trees around me, he goes, I get picked off. He goes, I can't hunt that tree. He goes, this year, I'm going to be able to hunt that tree. And he actually sent me a video of the buck he passed up on the last day, and it made me depressed because I've never even seen a buck that big. Passed up on the last day, but I've had a lot of hunters that have said, man, you've opened up a different opportunity and completely changed our hunting experience, because we can now hunt stands that we couldn't hunt before because it was too open, and now we can get in those stands. And I mean, the one of our field reps, Alexis Warner, Lexi, she shot her buck. She was really excited. She shot her buck. Then she came down out of her ladder stand. And when she got down to the bottom of the ladder stand, she heard something. Here comes another buck. Interesting enough, larger than the one she just shot. But here comes another buck walking down. And she's just standing at the bottom of her ladder stand, not up against the tree. She's standing there. And that buck came down the path and walked within 10 feet of her and walked right by her without seeing her. And I've heard so many stories like that. And one of the most common things when I do a Facebook ad, of course, you get all kind of comments, right? And one guy, a lot of people will say, "Hey, I've killed them with a T-shirt that smells of diesel fuel and blue jeans." And if any of you are morel hunters, morel mushroom hunters, there's a saying about morel mushrooms, and the saying is, you can find a morel anywhere, but you can't find them everywhere. And I say the same thing about camo. You can kill a buck wearing anything, but you can't always kill a buck wearing anything. I mean, they may just come in, never look your direction, and as one guy said, he could wear a pink prom dress. He could wear a pink prom dress and kill a buck. And my comment back to him was, hey, since deer are red-green colorblind, a pink prom dress looks like a shade of gray. So if you got the legs for it, go for it. You probably got a decent chance. My other favorite comment was a guy commented that you don't need camo. He doesn't need camo. He hunts out of a pop-up blind. He said, I could literally wear a clown suit. So my answer back was, professional clown suit, $295. WTF Camo jacket, pants, hat, and neck gaiter, $256. So, so hey, you can wear a clown suit, but you're going to spend more money than you would for my entire camo suit. So there you go.
Well, Tim, while you're on that subject, let's tell everybody watching what's the price of your, we know what the price is of your standard camo. You go to Cabela's and what we're I mean, these guys are paying Cabela's, Dick's online. Give us your prices and your size ranges.
Sure. The jacket, as you see right there, the jacket is $139, and the pants are $89, and that camo hat is $20, and then that long sleeve camo shirt is $25, and the neck gaiter I believe is $8, and then the beanie is $10. So one of the things when I did this camo, and being a father and son company, and right now just doing it on the web, realistically, I'm going to make a couple changes, and the price is probably going to go up a bit on my next order next year. But a lot of my friends are, they're blue collar, they're blue collar hunters. Every dollar matters, and for people to have to go out and spend what people spend on Sitka and some other gear, it's a little crazy. I was looking at. I'm looking at coming out with a duffel bag, and I was looking at duffel bags online, and I'm seeing, wow, there's some of these other companies are selling duffel bags for like $259. I'm like, it's a duffel bag with their camo on it, and I wanted to come out with a camo that was what I called mid-range pricing, and the benefit of that is that a lot of people, when my field reps and brand ambassadors, when they approached me early on, when these groups would say, hey, we'd love to be your field reps, and Tagging and Dragging Outdoors in Michigan were one of the first ones to say, hey, we'd love to be your field reps in Michigan. Like, great. And, when these people came on board and they ordered it because they loved the pattern, they liked the idea, they were really excited about it. But what's really nice is what shocked them was the quality. They were surprised at the high quality of the materials and the high quality of the construction. And that's the feedback I get all the time, is people are really surprised about the quality of the clothing, and compared to other clothing they've spent way more money for. So my idea was to be able to really deliver it on mid-range pricing with high quality, make it affordable, and I have a full-time job. This is my part-time passion. So Brendan and I both have full-time jobs that keep us very, very busy. And this is the part-time evening and weekend venture. So, right now I make my money through my full-time job. Every dollar that I'm getting from WTF Camo is going back into new product. In fact, I have gloves that are done. They're being shipped, and I'm coming out with my archery glove pretty soon. As far as sizes, everything runs small through 3X. My challenge right now is I've run out of 3X jackets. They ended up selling out. I did not, in my first order enough 3X jackets. So right now, jackets are small through 2X and pants are small through 3X. So my next order that I do, I'm also going to go higher sizes. Higher than 3X, I'm going to do at least a 4X, and be able to make accommodation for something a little larger than 3X as well. But the gloves are also going to be small through 3X. They're going to be a little tricky because you actually have to measure your hand to get the right size. So I'm going to have to do a little sizing video. And I know for a lot of us, we don't often pay attention to those types of details. We'll just say, oh, I'm an XL. Well, the gloves are a little tricky because if you're actually a 2X and you order an XL, they'll be too tight. If you order an XL, if you order an XL and you're really a large, you'll be fine. And so the gloves are lightweight. They're really for archery. They have an open finger design on the end, and they're very snug fitting. It's a stretchable material, and they're very snug fitting. When you talk about the design process, okay, we designed a camo, but then the process of like designing clothing and what did I want in clothing? I've been archery hunting for I got to do the math. 45 years. So I've been archery hunting for 45 years, and over that time, there were so many things that frustrated me about archery gear. So we did some things on the jacket and the pants. My brother was my biggest potential critic. And this is absolutely true. My brother told me, Tim, my brother's name is Bryant, and he said, Tim, if there's any Velcro, if the fabric's not perfectly quiet, if it's not comfortable, and if there's anything at all I don't like about it, I don't care if you're my brother or not, I ain't wearing it. And believe me, coming from my brother, that wasn't BS. So when I went through that clothing design process, it actually took almost 9 months to get the fabric right, just to get the fabric right, to be really super quiet, comfortable. It has a side-to-side stretch on the jacket and the pants. But the gloves, I never, ever found a glove I liked ever for archery hunting. And it really frustrated me. So when I went through the process of figuring out what do I want a glove to look like, I actually looked at all industries. I looked at gloves that are used in the medical industry. I looked at gloves that are used to assemble really small parts. I looked at gloves in rock climbing, and I see some questions there. So let me. The comments are really flying by. You're asking about weight of the jacket and pants. So these are really a lighter weight jacket and pant. They'll get you through archery season. Now, a lot of my hunters wore them the entire way through rifle season, and they just layered up underneath. I had my Michigan guys tell me it's good down to 15 degrees. I told them, bullshit, you live in Michigan. For the rest of us, that's probably not exactly accurate. You guys are used to colder weather and the Minnesota folks up there. But they are more geared towards archery weight. They are fleece lined, but they don't get too warm because they have really good breathability. So the good and the bad is they're for archery seasons. They have good breathability, but when it starts to get really, really cold, the wind will cut through a little bit. So that's why I kind of represent them. Now, I wore them this year. Our rifle season here in Pennsylvania was not that cold, so I wore them through rifle season, and so did my brother. My brother actually got a really nice buck with it in rifle season. So a lot of guys wore it the whole way through. I will say comfortably with right layering, you're good down into the upper 20s, low 30s, depending on how you tolerate the cold. My goal is to come out with heavyweight gear probably in about 2 years. And I know asking some questions about women's sizes. I don't have women's sizes yet, but I have a lot of women wearing the camo. In fact, Jamie Richards, my brand ambassador in New Hampshire, when she actually was trying it on at the Huntstock event in Massachusetts last summer, she said she tried on a lot of camo and none of it fit her right until she tried mine on. And part of it is it's really good for women's shapes from a hip standpoint. There's a lot of room in the jacket, and also the waistband on the pants is a flexible waistband. It always drove me crazy when I was wearing my archery hunting pants that as the season went on, and either I was layering up underneath or eating too much pumpkin pie or whatever else I was eating.
Little Debbie's in the stand.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Too many candy cakes and ring dings in the stand. So my pants would start to cut in. So when you look at the pants on the website, they all have a range for waist size, and that's because it's a flex waistband. So honestly, it was a fun process going through and saying, all right, here's what I want my clothing to look like. And, we never really get to make that decision. And I would have to say a lot of the hunters really appreciate that as well. But we're really happy with how the clothing came out and the hunters' response to it. I haven't had any complaints about the clothing other than people want more. They want heavyweight gear. They want heavyweight gloves. They want me to come out with more and more. And I'm like, wow, I got to sell a lot of camo to keep adding product, and that's what I plan on doing.
Now, what material is the camo made out of?
Yeah, it's 100% polyester, but they actually created the manufacturer actually created this fabric. I'm the first the first camo company to ever use this fabric that they created. And the company I use is a company called JEST Textiles. They're out of New Jersey, and they've been making camo for over 30 years, and they're the largest camo manufacturer in the world.
Nice.
And, really, really appreciate the partner. You know, coming into this, knowing nothing about clothing, only that we had a pattern, they've guided me and helped me as if I was their largest customer. So I couldn't have asked for anything more in terms of getting help through this process.
Awesome.
How many times have you looked at your brother recently and went, huh? I told you.
You know, I'll tell you what, he had a great story. He told me, I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? And by the way, they hold up in the brush really well. Honestly, didn't design them to be burr-proof or brush-proof, but all the hunters came back with stories about walking through green briars, walking through everything, and they're really not getting pulls into clothing. That was a nice surprise. Honestly, I didn't design it that way, but that's kind of how the fabric's holding up. But I was kind of waiting for my brother to come back with something, right? So I get a text message from him one night, and it says, well, brother, I had something happen to me that I've never had happen before while I was wearing a camo. And my first reaction was shit. Because my brother's a builder. So during archery season, he can hunt every morning and every evening. He makes his own time. He tells people he's building for, don't come around the house at 8 o'clock in the morning and expect me to be there because I'm going to be in a tree stand. So I called him up just waiting for what it was going to be. I'm like, all right, what happened? What's the problem? What's wrong with the camo? And he said, well, he goes, I was walking out the trail. He has old logging trails. He goes, and I saw there were three doe feeding about 7 or 8 yards off the path. Now the path is grass covered, so you can actually approach quietly. So he thought, let me put the camo to the test, see how close I can get to these 3 doe that are feeding. He'd walk, and when they'd look, he'd stop. And then he'd walk some more, and if they'd look up, he'd stop. He said he got when he got to within 5 yards of these doe, he goes, they're looking straight at him and not reacting. He said then they looked and they started feeding again, and he stepped and made noise, and then they pranced off. He said they didn't blow, their tails didn't fly up, they just kind of trotted off. But he said never ever ever have I been able to get within 5 yards of 3 deer that were feeding like that. And he couldn't believe it himself. And, he hunts on his own land. He has about 125 acres that he lives and hunts on in the mountain. So he's got a lot of experience with, deer on his property. It's the first time it ever happened. So I kind of considered like getting a little gold star on my homework paper from my brother on that one. So that was a pretty big endorsement coming from him, because it's not easy to get compliments from my brother. I can assure you that.
Well, that's really cool. I know one of the things that I found interesting about this whole thing, as we've gone forward so far, is that it's teaching people and showing them the science behind it,
yeah,
as well as like them just trying it. If you can get your foot in the door and just try it, you'll be convinced, I'm sure. But it's a super cool product, and I started a company back here just 6 months ago, and we're coming up with new modern solutions for problems that have existed for a long time.
Uh-huh.
And this is exactly what I'm finding is it's how do you encourage somebody to look at something that doesn't make sense to them,
yep,
and show them those anecdotal stories and share with them the evidence that you have that shows just how effective it is and how helpful that new technology is. Because really that's what you've done, is you've developed a new technology where you've taken sort of an older idea and put a new spin on it. And it's very cool. And I'm excited to learn more as you expand the product line, because I'm also learning that you can't attack everything at once. So it seems like you've brought forth some really, really good options that if people want to try it, they can try it. Like you said, they can layer up and try it in cooler weather if they want to. They're still going to be comfortable at the beginning of the season. So I feel like you did a really good job of providing those options as well.
Yeah, and they're trying it with different game as well. I mean, like I said, we've had actually my brother got 2 bear in New Brunswick wearing the camo, and so did his son and his buddy Sean. They all got bear. So people are trying it with other game as well. And the other question I get asked a lot is, do you have any other color schemes, for with leaves, without leaves? I'm like, it doesn't matter. When you're not trying to match your surroundings and you're focused on silhouette disruption, it's not about the color. It's about breaking up the silhouette. So, there's some of the other brands out there that have more than 20 plus patterns. We don't need one. And the other thing is, you really, that idea of looking through our camo, and when you show some of those pictures and the silhouette disruption is when you're looking at, when you see a lot of the commercials for the other camos, the real trees, the mossy oaks, if you ever notice, first of all, they have them set in like the most perfect matching surroundings possible. And secondly, if they're on a stand, you ever notice they never film them from the ground looking up? They're always filming either at the same level or looking down at the hunter. So you never really see it the way a deer would see it, where you're looking up with sky in the background.
Skyline, yeah.
You're never really seeing it like that in the way they represent it. So that's one of the other interesting aspects of camo. And what we really focused on was, even when you're standing on the ground, you're still seeing lighter colors, and a lot of times you're still seeing some sky in the background, or lighter ground, or something that that you need to be able to kind of see through the pattern more so. But that's a common question to get asked is, do you have other colors? And you don't really need other colors when you focus exclusively on disrupting the silhouette. But I think, you guys pointed out is that a big challenge is, if this goes retail and it would ever go in stores, they ought to have a banner. They got to have something with it, because otherwise it's just not going to make sense. Because unless you see it the way a deer sees it, it really doesn't make sense just to look at it, because it's so different than what other people expect to see.
We're like neighbors. I don't know if you realize that. Like, we are not far from each other at all. I think we're within 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Which I think that alone is awesome, which I didn't realize that. I knew we were close, but I didn't realize. Every time you say Hamburg, I laugh, because literally I go to Hamburg all the time.
Yeah, I actually live south of Reading, but I spend a lot of time up in the Hamburg area with our, nonprofit and some other things. But yeah, I'm only 30 minutes from Cabela's. Use that
I think that's pretty cool. And the fact that I found you online looking, we're always looking for new guests. We try to stay local. Yeah. We try to promote and help the local guy, because we're hoping they do the same for us. That's always the goal in this. So, and I don't want to put you on any spots, Tim. I swear I don't. But I'm going to throw this out. I threw it out to Jazzbear. I threw it out to everybody when they're a guest. Any chance you throw up a little discount code, we'll try to help you sell some of this product, maybe for 24 hours or 48 hours.
Yeah, sure. Let me give you a discount code for one of our field rep groups has a discount code. Now, it's one I know right off the top of my head. So it's RAO-10. Stands for Raising Arrows Outdoors.
-10.
RAO-10. That's a code that's valid actually all the time for 10% off. And
that's 10%.
I'll bring them up because they're another Pennsylvania group out of the Lancaster area. And then we have Backyard Bucks, another one of our field rep groups. They're down in the Chester County area. And then we have Philly Burbs Bow Hunters. They have a page, and they're doing a podcast. So we have pretty good representation in Pennsylvania. And I just signed a young lady, Gretchen Meager, in Western Pennsylvania as a brand ambassador. And it's kind of cool. She's a competitive rodeo barrel racer, and she's in her early 20s. And so she's a competitive barrel racer, and her parents have a company, Outlaw Skulls. They do hydro dipping, and they have hydro dip skulls and such. But her mom took one of my 3X long sleeve camo shirts, and she's cutting it up, and she's incorporating it into her competitive rodeo vest.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
Yeah. So we have some interesting uses of WTF camo out there. I had one guy last year at Huntstock that he's only starting to get into hunting, but he wanted to buy it to wear snowboarding because he thinks he'd look really badass.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the most interesting order I got was about a month and a half ago. A guy from Sacramento, California, just ordered a pair of just only WTF camo pants. And I was processing his order, and I picked the wrong box, so I canceled the shipment, but I didn't cancel his order. But he got a notification and thought I canceled his shipment. So he messaged me right away. He says, "Hey, why did you cancel my order?" I'm like, "Oh, I didn't. I just was doing your shipment." He goes, "Well, actually," he goes, "I don't even hunt." He goes, "I'm a skateboarder, and I found you online." He goes, "And I think that is a sick pattern." And so he got the pants, and he emailed me, and he's like, "Tim," he goes, "I thought they were just really cool to look at." He goes, "I had no idea how comfortable they would be." Then he ends up ordering a jacket and a beanie. So somewhere out in Sacramento, California, there's some guy out there on a skateboard wearing the full WTF Camo. And I told him, please send me pictures. I haven't seen a picture yet. So if he watches this podcast, I really want a picture of this skateboarder.
That's awesome. I'm not going to lie to you. That's awesome.
It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool that, I mean, we've had a lot of people come up to the booth that find appeal in the pattern itself. They just think it's like a really cool pattern. Even people that don't hunt have bought my camo jacket just because they think it looks awesome. But obviously what we're really trying to do is help hunters understand how it actually can really really help them and change their hunting experience by focusing on concealing their silhouette and disrupting their silhouette based upon how deer sees, versus having to worry about, their pattern matching their surroundings. Like, one of the things I'll say is, when's the last time you picked a deer stand location based upon how well your camo matched your surroundings? Right? You don't pick a stand because of how well your camo fits in. You pick it because that's where the deer are, and you don't want to have to worry about your camo. So with WTF Camo, doesn't matter where you wear it. It disrupts your silhouette. Doesn't matter what your surroundings are. So that's what the message we're trying to get across. We appreciate you having me on today to kind of help.
I think it's awesome, especially that you're local, same area, that we're within a certain area of each other. You're from Pennsylvania. I think that alone makes it pretty cool. I don't know if you've seen any of our YouTube videos, but we crow hunt, rabbit hunt. We're always in the woods. I would love to try your camo. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, they call me big sexy for a reason.
I get that.
I do a lot of hoofing and hiking, and you probably wouldn't believe it by the size of me, but I'm at least a 4X. I prefer a 5 just because I like my stuff loose. I like layering underneath and wearing a light jacket. So I definitely could probably get away with a 4, but if you could come up with something along there, message me, because I would definitely be interested in checking it out. And if you look, I think we're up to like 174 videos on YouTube.
Oh, fantastic.
So we're always we're always posting something new. I have 5 guys or 6 guys in our group here that are always out with us. I think that would be really cool to try to help you out along the way with it. The other thing is, I don't know if you've checked in us at all, but Chris and I have just created a board game that should be, oh God, Chris, come on, Chris.
Any minute now.
April, May, right? End of April, beginning of May. I mean, that's the hope and praise by all their stuff. We created a board game called Gun Hunting, and it is us trying to get the youth that are stuck in their cell phones and that never did it, and try to get them involved in a really strategic mindset and involved in the outdoors. So, Dave.
Oh gosh, I just caught that.
That's pretty funny.
He was asking if you sell tarps on the first one.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and actually, that's fantastic and very creative actually as well. And you're going to see something pop up on my page here within the next few weeks. It's going to be a little bit different as well. One of our youth participants. Oh, that's another thing I should mention for your viewers. We have an outdoor video production youth mentorship program. So my son Brendan leads that, and it's for youth age like 13 through 18 that want to become content creators, that are filming their hunts, that are filming their fishing adventures. And we have a real variety of youth that are involved. We have one young lady who created her own Christian clothing company during COVID, and she does really quick outdoor videos as part of that. And so we have an outdoor video production youth mentorship program. So if anybody's interested in that we're trying to help youth become responsible, ethical content creators and helping them find their own voice, not pretend to be somebody else, not try to be a character, but realize the value in their own voice. So Brennan leads that. We're going to get that back on track. He just had a baby a few weeks ago, so the last one got canceled. But one of the participants, a young gentleman named Will Steinauer, he's 15 years old, and he started his own fishing bait company. He molds his own bass and trout baits, and it's called Let's Go Fishing Baits. So to help him get started, we're going to be creating a new collection on our website that's going to feature his baits, and it's going to be his responsibility. He's going to be loading them all on there, taking the pictures, building them, putting the pricing in, filling the orders. So we're going to have this young man start to kind of branch out his entrepreneurship, but he's actually getting his baits into some stores in the Harrisburg area and others. And we're going to be adding that on to kind of help him out a little bit and get him started. So you're actually going to see fishing baits from one of our youth field reps and youth participants in our video mentorship program.
That's awesome. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, our youth have so many really bad on social media. Anything any of us can do to help them understand and understand the value of being themselves and the value of their own voice and the value of their own individuality, and that they don't have to be a character to develop a following. I told my one youth field rep that creates contents, I said, I would rather have you have 500 followers being yourself than have 1,000 pretending to be someone you're not. And because you might start with 1,000 pretending to be somebody you're not, but people are going to figure that out. If you start with 500 being who you are, that's going to grow and people are going to appreciate you for who you are. So that's the message we're trying to get out to participants in our program. And there's no curriculum. Every session is different, so anybody could join at any time and be part of that youth mentorship program.
Well, we appreciate you sharing that, Tim, because that's kind of our goal in this whole thing. Is we have a couple young. I don't know if you seen in the very beginning there was a young boy that popped up. He's only about 14. He follows us religiously, man. He got my number and he messages me to go crow hunting, and he's always wants to. So I told him and I and Chris, we're going to get together. We're going to go shoot a crow hunt video with him here. We're going to, it's a blast. I think it's one of the coolest things in the world. Like I said, my daughter hunts, loves to hunt. And I think that it's amazing watching these kids when they get out in the woods and just to see their reaction and love once they're involved is just hard to match with anything else.
Yeah. I'll tell you something else I saw in your opening video commercial. I saw a lot of people I need to get into WTF Camo.
I got a quick question for you actually on the sizing. So I'm 6'7" and about 275, 280, somewhere in there, depending on how much I ate for dinner. Pant length wise. So I have a big problem with, like, you buy a set of hunting pants, and by the time you get done, you could walk through a flood zone with it.
Yep.
Just walk across the field because they hike up, and I have to wear super tall boots. So when you do your sizing, lengthwise on the pants, first off, is there elastic on the bottom of them?
There is not.
There's not?
No.
Okay.
And actually, my next order, when we're going to be able to get Big Sexy all outfitted up, I'm also going to have tall sizes as well.
Oh, sweet.
Because I had actually at last year's Entering Gear Outdoor Show, a guy walked up to me and I'm looking up at him. He goes, "Do you carry freak sizes?" I'm like, "You're a pretty tall guy." And I actually had an Amish gentleman from Ohio that come up this year. He's about 6'5", 6'6" too. And he said the same thing. Once you have tall sizes, I want your camo.
Yeah, I'm right there with him.
Yep. So I would, my next order, and I basically need to sell about 450 more suits to enable me to order again. So in my next order, which won't be this year, it won't be for this season. Hopefully it'll be for next season. I'm going to go up to 4X, 5X, and then I'll have tall sizes as well.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause
listen, you can promote all your stuff on our sources, or
absolutely.
send us, and we'll help you promote. We're always about helping the next guy. So,
Well, I mean, one of the things the tall guys tell me is that the one guy goes, I can't find tall camo. And I just thought he was bullshitting me, and then I started Googling and looking for tall sizes in camo. I couldn't find any. So I'm like, no, that looks like a market that I'm happy to go after and try and get you tall people with the freak sizes outfitted.
Yeah.
Now for branding, do you have extra size that you can order,
That's
like plus ego?
Yeah.
Luckily, my hats are snapback, so they can open up as wide as you need.
Oh, there you go, Brandon. You're in.
Well, does the beanie expand too? Like, just in case I shoot a big one?
I actually have a couple guys that the beanie was too small, so
it's not going to work.
The beanie
No Sasquatch.
for a couple guys.
There's too much hot air in here.
A couple of things. One, if you have a commercial, because I know you said he does digital marketing.
Yeah.
Feel free to send it out. 30 seconds to about a minute. Send it out. We'll play it.
Okay, I have one.
And two, I like to ground hunt, so I'm really looking at this stuff because I'm a ground hunter. So I mean that's going to help out a lot. And three, I swear to God in heaven, I just got the camo tarp joke from Barnesy. I thought he was saying we would cut up a jacket. I didn't realize he was saying we'd cut up a tarp and make a poncho. I swear to God, I just got it.
That was a
My
good
special friend, Chris. You're my special friend.
When you get to a certain size, you're just size Coleman at that point, like a 10.
Yeah.
Well, I want to point out I can fit in 4X, but I like to bundle. If I get 4X, then I feel like I can't put enough layers under if I go out predator hunting or what I do. So I like to.
Yeah, the reason that I'm kind of looking at throwing a duffel bag before I do some of these other things is, believe it or not, on my Facebook page there's some. I think they were on my Facebook page. Yeah, they were on my Facebook page. A saddle company, Custom Gear Modifications, took some extra material I had and made a saddle out of it.
Nice.
And that's a sweet looking saddle. But in order for them to move forward, I got to get them some Cordura, 600 junior Cordura in my camo pattern. So, and there's minimums. So,
So you're gonna make some duffels with the extra.
for them, and then make duffel bags with the rest. So, I have a priority list of things I want to come out with my camo. You know, camo hoodie, heavyweight gear. You know, there's different things in order. This might be one of those where I go out of order because having a saddle like that. Because I had my buddy Barry took one of my camo shirts and he's sewing it onto his saddle because he didn't like having a big beige saddle on his butt when he's all concealed in the camo. So we're excited about seeing, and same thing with hunting packs. I will probably not build my own hunting pack. They are changing so fast because of mobile hunting.
Yeah.
Saddles, different types of ladder setups. The packs are changing so fast. What I would want to do is partner with a company where they would use my pattern on their packs. So that is because it's more their line of business. I'm focusing more on clothing and accessories. Same with pop-up line. I think a pop-up line in my camo pattern would look phenomenal because but I'm probably not going to do my own pop-up line because they're changing really fast. I mean, now you have the see-through blinds. So I'm trying to stick to my wheelhouse right now, really on clothing and accessories, and looking to try to partner with some other companies outside of the clothing realm to use my camo. I do not want to have any other company license my camo pattern for clothing. I want full control over the clothing because I'm a stickler about quality for the clothing. And I will only license my pattern to quality products. You're not going to see my pattern on junk stuff.
I'd be interested in getting some blank hats from you and putting that logo on it. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah. So, in my next order, I'm going to be ordering some of my camo hats without my embroidery on them because I've had other people that want some of my camo hats blank. Some of my field reps want to put their own logo on the camo hat, which I think is awesome. So Call to Hunt is one of those groups out of Virginia, West Virginia. They're on the hunting channel and such, so they'd like to put their Call to Hunt logo on my camo hat. So my next order for hats, I'm going to be getting some just straight up camo hats without my embroidered logo on for people to be able to do that with.
Cool.
I think that'd be cool. I think you could help us. We could help you with that setup. We could come up with something.
Yeah.
I put our logo on just about everything. I know Brandon's a big duck hunter, so I went and got.
And he still hasn't shipped it to me.
I didn't. I still have it. I haven't shipped it, but I went and got 10 hats made with the duck pattern on it for him.
I'll tell you what, Brandon, I'd love to see you out there in WTF Camo for waterfowl, because I have a lot of guys ask me, will it work for waterfowl? Will it work for waterfowl? My honest answer is I really don't know. But then the other part of that answer is, but think of how many times waterfowl have seen hunters in what they expect to see them in, reed camo. Yeah. They see them. How many times have they seen them wearing all the other patterns? They haven't seen anybody laying out in the field, in the side of a field in WTF Camo. So I'd love to see some waterfowlers give it a shot.
Yeah. So I actually think, so for me, your jacket would be more of a valuable thing for me, I think, in a layout blind setup like that, because you probably would have a little bit more mobility in the breakup of, especially cornstalk type. The biggest thing is like the ducks and geese can see in color. So
that's okay, because it's still breaking up the silhouette. So I
absolutely, and I agree with you on that. My biggest thing is if I'm in a green ryegrass field or something in a layout, pop up, they might flare a little quicker. But I do think like riverbank edges where we're hunting quite a bit, where we can't get a blind in, if we're behind some blowdowns and stuff, just breaking up the actual silhouette would be pretty cool. Yeah, I'd be interested in trying the jacket when it doesn't fit like a crop top. That's how it goes for me.
I don't know if you've seen that, Brandon. We made sure you got to read this comment that popped up.
I saw that. Will, that's Will Steiner. That's the Let's Go Fishing Baits young man. And as you can tell from that little tiny picture on his profile there, that young man knows how to fish. So he's quite a fisherman. That's great that he popped on here. So
yeah, I could definitely see where the jacket would have some benefits to me, no doubt, in some aspects.
You know, anytime anybody asks me those questions, I'm painfully honest. Even whenever, you know, when people said, will it work for coyote? I'm like, well, I don't know, coyote or red-green colorblind, so maybe. And then we had some guys go out and coyote hunt with it, and they said, man, these coyotes came running right in. We were sitting in the field. They didn't pick us out at all. So I'm like, awesome. So, but I've always been painfully honest when people say, will it work for blank? I'm like, I don't know. Give it a shot and let me know. And, you know, so far so good with how it's worked for game outside of deer. But, you know, we designed it for deer vision. But obviously, people are now using it for especially turkey, bear, and coyote and other games. So I find that exciting. I have had a request to have kind of a green version for turkey, and that may come down the road. But you know, being completely self-funded, and it means I'm not going to grow as quickly as people would like. You know, my field reps and brand ambassadors, they're the ones that are pushing me to, you know, we want heavyweight gear. We want this, we want that. We want a camo hoodie. And I'm like, yeah, me too. So the more camo I sell, the faster I'll be able to come out with this. Right now, like I said, the gloves are coming out next. They're shipped. They're on their way here. And as soon as they do, they're going to pop up on the site and make that announcement. But, you know, one thing at a time, and just keep growing.
Yeah. I'd like to promote your big man's camo. So when that happens, let me know. We'll figure something out.
Yeah. And you know, one of my buddies said that for the big man stuff, he goes, he says, you need a big man wearing a camo. He's a big guy. He goes, he gets so pissed off seeing like smaller guys promoting so-called big and tall man stuff. He goes, you know, you gotta have a big man in the camo. If you're gonna have a big man camo, you gotta have a big man modeling the camo. So I totally agree. So that's my next order. We're gonna take care of those sizes. We're gonna make a few changes to the jacket and pant and get tall sizes and a couple other modifications. and we'll have tall people covered and bigger sizes covered.
Cool. Well, I got to log out of here, guys. I got to go check on my mare here, who supposedly was supposed to have a foal like 7 days ago, but hasn't yet.
Oh.
So, hey, go take a look at her, because I'm every hour I got to go do that. So, but it was great talking to you. I'm really interested once you get some tall sizes in, and yeah, it was just nice meeting you. It's cool to see something different, kind of paying homage to the way things should be in the silhouette distortion, rather than just cool camo patterns that cost a lot of money.
Yeah, and I just looked at the clock, guys. It looks like we ran a little over. I apologize.
Yeah, that's okay.
No,
We're not.
Dude, you're totally fine. We always do. I told
you we get run into conversation and it happens down, Brandon. It's
oh yeah.
It's we plan it. It's nothing we I don't know if you did see Tim, so I'll tell you a few things here before we end.
Yeah.
You guys
Linda
have a good
White.
night.
See you, Brandon. Have a good night. Thank you.
Hey, Brandon, good luck.
So Linda White was commenting on. Linda White is a huge trapper who's actually coming to basically Hamburg. In Chris, do you remember her stuff? I don't remember. I think it's May she'll be here. She's coming to an event she's holding in May, teaching the youth, women, how to trap.
That's
Thought it was
fantastic.
April
She'll be
22nd.
there. She's huge, ain't Chris? She's like an icon of trapping. I mean, she says she's not, but if you talk to anybody about Linda White is like an icon of trapping, man. People just go to Linda. They love her. So she's watching, and she was asking a lot of questions about your camo, which is a big deal. And I think that's awesome. That's why I asked about a discount code, because I see a lot of people comment. And I thought if we could help get him to buy that for you a little bit, I think that'd be great.
Yeah. My brother just took up trapping a few years ago. He killed a nice buck the first day of archery season. So best day was killing a nice buck the first day of archery season. The day after was the worst day, where he realized his hunting season was over. He's like, what the hell am I going to do now? So he took up trapping, and now he's been doing that the last 3 years as well. So I guess you're never too old to get started. So it's great to hear that she gets the youth started as well.
Oh, it's never too old. When you got a youth involved in the outdoors, or you're doing anything in the outdoors, you're never too old to do those things.
Yeah.
But I want to commend you for what you're doing. I want to say thank you so much. Like I said, I know we're over time, but it is what it is. And I just want to say thank you for jumping on here and sharing your product, your thoughts, all your research and why you did it. And it means the world to me.
Thank you.
I know it does to Chris as well. And, Tim, we should stay in touch. We're not far from each other. I'm sure we can help each other out through this whole thing.
Yeah, I would like that. One of the exciting things about venturing into this world is all the connections I've made, people I never would have met, people I never would have heard of. And I hadn't really followed the podcasting world. So I'm learning so much about, like, you're right in my backyard, and which is awesome. So I appreciate you having me on. It was I really enjoyed the conversation and the interaction.
Yeah, we enjoyed it as well. I know, Chris, if you ever hear my phone ping, it's Chris being like, dude, this is cool, or check this out. So he's always keeping me up to date with what he's seeing and doing. And that's why he disappears a little bit. He's, like I said, he's the research dude. He's always in the background doing stuff. But yeah, I mean, we made this board game. One thing I was thinking with your camo pattern, so you laugh at this, is we're going to release at some point, we're going to release, an expansion pack once this game comes out. And we're pre-sold up to 91 already before it even has been out here.
Fantastic.
So what we did is we opened it up for sponsors. People were buying $150 cards. So basically they were putting their product in our store. So that, there's something in an expansion pack. That'd be pretty cool. 2 guys from PA working together, putting some, I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, count me in.
Just something to think about, an idea I thought of as we were talking. I thought, man, that would be really neat. And we'll definitely, when the game comes out, you'll see we have banners and signs, and we're going to start promoting the tar out of this thing. We're just waiting to have it in hand before we go crazy with it. Because, of course, once I start showing people are already, I want it. And I'm like, well, you got to wait. We're still a month behind on, so it stinks. But you understand doing this, that nothing works the way you plan.
Yep. It's well, yeah. We ordered our clothing. And it was supposed to arrive in June of 2020. So you know how that worked out, and it showed up in November of 2021. So COVID just knocked us a year and a half off track, and it happens. So
Yep.
it is what it is.
It definitely happens, and there's nothing you could do.
But
Chris, do you have anything for Tim before we close out? I know your brain's always spinning back there.
Well, 1 second before anything else, if you wanted to come down and say, hey to Linda, she'll be in Auburn, which I'm sure you know where Auburn is.
Yeah.
April 22nd to the 23rd. They're doing a trapping 101 class. Just want to give you the heads up.
And that's for youth, so that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know if that was something you might want to get another connection with. That's all. But no, I mean, I asked pretty much what I was looking for, especially the the location of the pattern. Again, I'm a ground hunter. I like it for that because I'll sit in just about anything if it'll hide. So
I like the breakup. Like I said, when I first seen the pattern, I was kind of mind blowing.
And I don't need a tarp.
Well, again, he said about a lot of the reactions, and that was kind of mine at first.
Yeah.
Like, man, this is weird. This is different. But the more I researched it and the more I watched it and the more I seen your stuff, the pictures and the videos all made sense. It all was like, wow, that's really cool. So, I mean, I commend you for it, taking this step and trying to do something different in the world and putting the time and effort in. It's definitely not easy.
Yeah.
Did you say you do have 3X coats?
No, I just ran out of 3X coats.
Okay. Let me know when you get them.
Boy, I know that was rough running out of that because you don't want to run out of sizes long before you can reorder, and that's what just happened to me with 3X jackets. That's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, it is what it is. Life goes on. You just keep us informed because, like I said, I'd love to show off your product. I'm a big guy. I don't know if you've seen these cool tattoos.
Oh yeah,
but I'd love to show off your product. We have a lot of fun. Like I said, we're always, and one thing with Chris and I is we have no shame. Like we have fun in life, and it is what it is. And trust me, your product will get seen.
You have it in hoodies, right? You have the 3X hoodies.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, 3X in everything but the jacket. And then,
all right, we're cool. That's what I like is the hoodies.
Just can't get that right away. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to wait a while for that.
That's cool.
But yeah, we're at our time frame, Tim. You have anything else you want to throw out to the viewers before we're done?
I'm good. Just thanks for the time. If people made it this far, God bless you. We're having a good time, and really appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate it, Tim. Thank you very much. Keep in touch with us, please.
Absolutely.
Share your product on our page. Feel free to, if you don't want to share it, send it to us. We'll help promote for you.
Send me the commercial.
Yep. Send us that commercial. We'll share it. We'll put it on here even.
I'll do that.
And, thank you, man. That's all I can say. I thank you, and I God bless you and your family.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Take care.
And have yourself a great night.
Thanks. Have a good one.
You too.